So you'll know I can't resist a Peanuts Vince Guaraldi soundtrack, and one of the reasons is because Charlie Brown Christmas was actually pretty much my entry point to the jazz genre. Like, probably. I mean, I think I've seen that. I probably first saw that that TV special, you know, when I was just a couple of years old. So it probably was like literally my entry point. And to this day, I hold so much nostalgia, not only for that particular special, but just so many of these Peanuts specials. And even when there's a special that I haven't seen before, there's something about the music that still, I feel like, holds some of that nostalgia, and it's weird. I think it's something that's inherent to just Vince Guaraldi's music and how it was represented. So therefore, when You're Not Elected, Charlie Brown, a special that I actually have not seen before, when this soundtrack came out, had to take the opportunity to talk about it and obviously pick up a copy, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, let's dive into this as I've done before, because recently I've covered like the Thanksgiving one, and it was a short summer Charlie Brown. I know that I've done Great Pumpkin and the Christmas special. Like I basically cover all of them on this channel. So of course, at this point, I have to cover this one as well. So before we dive in, hit like and hit subscribe. See, that way you are notified whenever I post a new video. So that's of some value anyway. And if you'd like, you can head over to Instagram. You can follow me at what_can_brown. All right, so here it is. You're Not Elected, Charlie Brown. So this is the release that we're going to talk about today. This was just put out like last Friday by Lee Mendelson Film Productions. Now, just to kind of to sort of catch you up. So the rights to all of these soundtracks, I think, have always resided with Lee Mendelson Film Productions, but when they put out the soundtracks for Charlie Brown Christmas over the years, as well as It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, they did it with Kraft Recordings. And since then, since the release of a couple of those, sort of those bigger ones, right? Like those are the ones that I think everybody knows because they're always played on TV every single year, and they have been probably without stop since the 60s. So everybody knows those. They put those out via Kraft, and ever since then, they've been basically self-releasing with via Lee Mendelson Film Productions. So, hopefully I don't need to catch you up in terms of who is Charlie Brown and who are the Peanuts. But in terms of Peanuts TV specials, there are over 50 of them. And what I've found is that everyone has seen the Christmas one, everyone has seen Great Pumpkin, but some of the others range from, yes, I saw that growing up, to I have a vague recollection of that, and maybe I saw it, to I've definitely never seen that before. And all of that's fine, because even if you don't have nostalgia for any individual TV special, the thematic sort of content and tone of a Vince Guaraldi Peanuts special is sort of present across them. And really, I think what differs between them is sometimes instrumentation, obviously the musicians that are playing, and the fact that each is a product of its time in terms of the tone. All right, so across these many specials, you do sort of get a range of different types of sound. So, if you think about Christmas and how it's sort of more of a, I don't know if it's like a formal piano trio, kind of West Coast cool piano trio, right? But beyond that, as you get into some of these other specials, especially going into the 70s, it really covers a range of different styles. All right, so as far as this particular soundtrack, like I said, I can't say that I've seen this TV special, but it originally aired just days prior to the Nixon election in 1972. So isn't it fitting, I suppose, even though it's not just days, but a couple of months ahead of the election in an election year. So fitting time for the label to put this particular one out. So this was actually the 8th primetime TV special for the Peanuts, and I do believe this is the first to feature Woodstock, which actually surprised me because I read that this was the first to feature Woodstock, and I thought, no, Woodstock's in Christmas and it's in Great Pumpkin. Apparently not. Apparently not. I think I think I placed it there in my head, placed Woodstock there in my head, but this is the first special to include him. In terms of actually the this particular release, the album was mastered by Vincent Hudson with tapes transferred from the original session tapes to high-res digital at 192 kilohertz, 24-bit. So so super high quality. And what else should I reference? I think actually I do want to reference that. And it's referenced here actually on the Obi. This is pressed on bio vinyl. This is like a relatively new thing as far as I can tell, and I want to talk about this just for a quick second. So bio vinyl is not recycled vinyl like what? Like that Billie Eilish record, or what is it? Is it REM or Coldplay or something? I forget. Anyway, there's a variety of artists that are playing with different types of material that are sort of more sustainable. That is more of what this is. This is not recycled vinyl in the way that sort of Prestige did it in the 1960s. This is a material where they actually replaced the petroleum in the vinyl with, I think, recycled cooking oil is what's referenced here. Beyond that, the jacket, the insert, the Obi strip, and the labels are all printed on paper utilizing sustainable forest practices, and even the bag, even the sort of outer sleeve, is compostable and made from 99% renewable material. So again, I want to say up front that this is not recycled vinyl in the way that you're thinking, and in fact, it sounds the exact same as regular PVC vinyl in terms of the look, the feel, and the sound, and it sounds fantastic. All right, so otherwise, in terms of what you get, the lineup on this record, obviously you're going to have Vince Guaraldi, and he actually plays more than you'd think he would in terms of instruments. So he plays piano, electric piano. He does offer vocals on the track Joe Cool, and he also plays guitar. And kind of the interesting thing that makes it even more impressive is that this is multi-track. So there are individual sort of tracks or selections where Guaraldi is playing like on as many as like 3 different tracks, like 3 sort of different instruments, or at least if not instruments, at least sort of sounds, right? Because using the electric piano, he's able to get a few different things going. So in addition to Vince Guaraldi, you have Seward McCain on bass and flute. You have Tom Harrell on trumpet, Glenn Cronkite on drums, Mel Martin on woodwinds, and Pat O'Hara on trombone. A couple of those instruments, especially I think Pat O'Hara, as well as I guess Mel Martin on some of the woodwinds, I think is exclusively on the New Orleans sort of themed piece. I believe that that's right. So it's not that there's a large band throughout this entire album. In fact, most of the time what you're going to hear is a trio, but again, Guaraldi offers kind of some different things using some of these additional tracks basically. So other than what I've showed you, it actually does include an insert, which I think is super helpful. It not only includes some information, inside about sort of about the history, but I think that some of the best content here is actually on the back, and these are almost like listening notes. So this is Sean Mendelson, who I've interviewed on my channel before, and he basically offers not like purely track by track, but I think he covers like basically like a large number of these tracks. Some of them are like alternate takes or whatever, but anyway, he kind of like covers each of them. And the funny thing is that reading something like this, which is almost like, hey, here's the tracks, here's what I heard, here's kind of the style, very much mimics what I do on my channel. And so I was reading this and I was kind of like, this is what I want to cover when I talk about this. But I'm not going to, because it's here. It's somebody else did it. And so, when you get this anyway, I personally use this type of thing almost as like a listening resource, listening to the tracks, and I'm learning about it at the same time. All right, so similar to some of the other soundtracks that have been released, especially Thanksgiving, and it was a short summer Charlie Brown. What you have on this album is not necessarily long format pieces, but it's a lot of like interludes and sound bites that were used in the actual special. So, this is not, in fact, if I'm thinking about it right, I want to say that Charlie Brown Christmas may have been the only one that really was a coherent soundtrack of full-length songs. There certainly were some on Great Pumpkin, but I feel like more and more with a lot of these soundtracks, what you get is, some of them are going to be longer format, but then you're also going to have a lot of, again, sort of interludes or little snippets. And the interesting thing about it is that I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. Even on Pumpkin, right? Like when I heard that, you're going to have 15 or 20 second kind of snippets, I was kind of like, well, I don't need to relive the special on the soundtrack. And yet I think it's because it's Guaraldi, and I think it's because of how, he was just doing so many interesting things during these recordings that I find it fascinating, even though they're not, say, 2 or 3 or 4 minute pieces. And this exactly fits that kind of vibe where, again, there's a lot of, in fact, here, if you see like side A and side B, right? So you see the things that kind of, that made the, that made the special in like white, and then you see some of the alternate takes that didn't make the special that are in blue. And so there is some repetition in terms of them having, say, multiple renditions of Incumbent Waltz and Joe Cool, and yet because Guaraldi was playing around with it so much, and he was experimenting in the studio, even though you're going to hear several renditions of it, it is not at all the same. And in fact, some of the time he uses completely different instruments. Like he's going to sub out, he's going to use the acoustic piano instead of the electric piano, and it offers a completely different sort of thing. So I really like this type of format where not only do you have everything that was on the special in terms of like literally everything that was recorded and made available for the TV special, but then you also have some of the other things that I guess that they were able to choose from that they didn't for a variety of reasons. And I found this the case on Thanksgiving, and I found this the case on It Was a Short Summer, Charlie Brown. Some of the things that didn't make the special are actually my favorite snippets from the entire thing. And so I think it's really cool to be able to to again sort of get it all in one place. All right, so it's hard for me to talk about this album in terms of highlights, because there's just a lot of moments, is probably the best way to put it. But I will make an effort, especially because I know some people like to go and preview, right, before you buy, so that you know kind of what you're getting into. And I do believe actually that the folks at Lee Mendelson Film Productions have made these tracks available for streaming. Like, I know that when I post on Instagram, I can actually tag, I think, every single track and use it. I think it's probably on YouTube as well. So the stuff is out there. You can definitely go and check it out and find out if you want something more than the digital version. What I will say, speaking of digital version, is that this material on vinyl, I think that this label does an especially good job. Now, I understand that, again, they're using the original source material, but they are transferring it to digital. I think that it works really, really well, especially for some of these 70s soundtracks that are sort of fusion in style. So this is definitely a kind of fusion in style. And when they're using electric instruments, there's something about the smoothness, I think, that the digital format offers, and it just sounds really clear, really crisp when it's acoustic piano and drums, but just really sort of clear and beautiful and warm, I think. Even despite the fact that a lot of people, when they think about what they want in a vinyl pressing, they think, oh, it has to be directly all analog, AAA kind of transfer. So I do want to say, first of all, that this album sounds amazing, as have the previous ones that they put out. I do think that this benefits from being turned up, and I don't mean that it was mastered quietly. I didn't necessarily think that was the case. I just noticed that when I turned it up, it was like that much richer. You get like a lot more, and I think it's because of the sort of the fusion style, and there's more detail in the bass and sort of lower register stuff, that turning it up kind of like almost feels like it like broadens the spectrum of sound that you get. And so anyway, that's sort of a recommendation, I guess, when you listen to this. So if I'm thinking about some of my favorite, again, moments, because there's great songs on here. Like, for example, Joe Cool, even if you don't like Vince Guaraldi's kind of schoolhouse rock styled vocal, which I guess is like a Bob Dorough kind of, style vocal. It's followed by like a fantastic flute solo, and it's like an extended piece. It's like 4 minutes or something. It's a really, really solid song. And again, there are some that are a little bit longer, but then there also are a bunch that are these like ideas that as soon as they're played, you want it to develop into an entire song, and it doesn't always do that. And so it's a little bit frustrating, but because it's so exciting, some of these snippets, it still makes it very worthwhile. So I think Cookin' Snoopy, which they always reference as fast piano jazz, I think it's short, but it is so fantastic. It like basically gives me goosebumps, and I don't even know why. Because again, it's not like I have nostalgia for this. I hadn't heard it before, but it's just so good. Blue Charlie Brown is a very blues heavy, borderline hard bop kind of like in feel piece that's on here. There's a number of renditions of a track that they call Incumbent Waltz. So even just within the content that made the special, there's one, two. Okay, so I think there's two versions of that, but then in the additional bonus tracks, there's 3 more renditions of it. So you get a lot of different takes, and each one sounds different, and again, different instrumentation. And I think Incumbent Waltz is one of my favorites of the entire album for sure. And I guess what I really like is that you can hear a version of it where Guaraldi is playing acoustic piano, but there's also one where it's more sort of electric keyboard feature that almost sounds like a synthesizer. I actually think that Sean, in the liner notes that's included in the booklet, I think he gets into that with a little bit more pointed in terms of exactly what it is. But I really love all of that. Now, you're obviously going to get a take of Linus and Lucy, and yes, it sounds different than any of the other versions that you've heard of Linus and Lucy. And I think that one of the best moments is actually the transition from Linus and Lucy to Poor Charlie Brown, which is just the shortest little interlude thing, but it just sounds so good. And there's other examples of that. So on track 10, which is titled Elect Linus / Woodstock's Wake Up, that moment of Woodstock's Wake Up is just an amazing little tiny thing, and it's hard for me to explain. You just kind of have to make note and then go preview some of these. My favorite sort of take. I have a few favorite takes that were in the bonus tracks that didn't make the actual special. One is certainly the fully instrumental Joe Cool, and there's actually two versions of that. But I really like African Sleigh Ride. That one is that's like one of my like top 2 or 3 tracks. Just I think on this entire album. So that's kind of it. Well, okay, so I'll say, these guys are probably not going to want me to have pointed this out, but in the future, just know this is how you identify whether there's a first press, whether what you have is a first pressing or not. Soundtrack is slightly misspelled, so maybe they'll correct that for the second pressing. But that means you want the first pressing. You want the one with the spelling mistake on the cover, right? And that's how you know that what you have is the original item. So in any event, I'm a huge fan of this, and I love that Lee Mendelson Film Productions is going into their archives and pulling out this music because this is the first time that you've been able to hear this music together on one album, just as with Thanksgiving and it was a Short Summer Charlie Brown. And my understanding is that they're going to continue to put these out on a regular basis. So this is the second one that we've had this year. It was a Short Summer Charlie Brown, came out on Record Store Day. This is the second one that we've had just ahead of election season. Last year it was Thanksgiving, right? So this coming year, if I don't even want to guess what they're going to put out. When there's 50 TV specials, I think they have a lot of content. And what's so exciting to me is I don't know the exact number of how many Vince Guaraldi was involved with, but whenever it's Vince Guaraldi, I'm interested, especially because there was this period of time in his career where, he was playing a lot of live stuff, but in terms of the music that he was putting out there in terms of full albums, like, gosh, a lot of it is in these it is in these soundtracks. He was heavily involved in this stuff in the 60s and 70s. And so, yeah, I think it's super exciting. I think for those of you who also have nostalgia for Charlie Brown and who like Vince Guaraldi, I think are going to find a lot to love with this soundtrack as well. So anyway, those are kind of some of my thoughts. Like I said, I kind of kept it I kept it short because all the thoughts that I wanted to say are actually written in those liner notes. So go and pick this up if you're interested. I'll drop a link in the description, which I typically do whenever I talk about an album. I usually have a link in there in case you want to find out exactly where to get it. And I guess one other comment is that with many of these releases, they're not just limited to a black vinyl copy. So for those of you who like the idea of color vinyl and you like to collect some of these indie exclusives, do look out for the other variations of this. So I think if you just buy it online, it's the black vinyl, which is what I got. I want to say it's Woodstock Yellow, which is very appropriate when you consider that this is the first special to feature Woodstock. And again, I think you can get that in indie stores, similar to how they did It Was a Short Summer and Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. They have these like color vinyl exclusives, whether it's for Record Store Day or for indie stores. So have at it. But anyway, I got the black vinyl version for myself. So yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks very much, everyone, as always, for sticking around, and I will see you next time.